Welcome to the Gaming After 40 video podcast. This week, before your very eyes, I'm going to play through three vintage text adventure games as fast as I can. I certify that there are no camera tricks or edits involved in this run-through. All typos and load times are exactly as recorded. And we're gonna go. I'm just waiting for it to load still. Alright. Well, this voiceover was recorded later, in case you were wondering. And there's some strange and interesting history associated with the Pharaoh trilogy of text adventures. It was written by Brian Nash for the TRS-80 Model 1 and consists of three games: Pharaoh, White Palm, and Martek's Tomb. There's no copyright date in the code itself. A search of online records would lead one to believe it was published by Simutech in 1979. But these games were almost certainly inspired by a set of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons modules written by Tracy and Laura Hickman. The titles seem too close to be coincidence: Pharaoh, Oasis of the White Palm, and The Lost Tomb of Martek. And there are other common elements. The Hickman's Desert of Desolation correlates to the Desolation Desert in Nash's introduction, and both call the Pharaoh Amun-Re instead of the more common Amun-Ra. So it seems logical to conclude that the two projects are in some way related. Now here's where the timing gets weird. The Hickman modules were reportedly developed and playtested in 1977 and 1978. Oh, there I am. First one down. Chapter 1, Pharaoh, is completed. Anyway, here's where the timing gets weird. The Hickman modules were reportedly developed and playtested in 1977 and 1978, then published as an independent small press release in 1979. The trilogy didn't see broader distribution until TSR picked it up as an official AD&D product for official publication starting in 1982. And I'm still waiting for White Palm to load, as you can see. So the timing implies that either Brian Nash had seen the early versions of the modules and patterned his games after them, or that the Hickmans were inspired by the adventure games. I suspect that the AD&D modules came first. The adventure games are pretty amateurish, and Tracy Hickman, on the other hand, has had a long and distinguished career in the role-playing game industry. So what's going on here? My conclusion is that Simutech actually published a different game called The Pharaoh in 1979, and that the Brian Nash adventures came out sometime after the Desert of Desolation modules were published. How am I doing here? I'm pretty close to being done. One of the bugs in this program that this whole trilogy of adventures that makes it fairly easy to finish is that if you don't have something or you haven't found it, but you know it's in the game, all you have to do is drop it and it'll appear. There we go. White Palm down. On to the third, slightly more challenging chapter of the trilogy, Martek's Tomb, which seems to have a corrupted title screen. I'm not sure if I've got a bad image of it or if that was the way it was coded originally. Anyway, so what's going on here? My conclusion is that Simutech actually published a different game called The Pharaoh in 1979, and that the Brian Nash adventures came out sometime after the Desert of Desolation modules were published. Brian Nash likely based his games on the AD&D modules, or at least their concepts and titles, and his work may not have been officially published at all. Even for the time, the Pharaoh adventures aren't up to commercial standards. There are lots of bugs and misspellings, and no publisher is cited. So it's plausible that it was just a hobbyist project. It may just be a fluke that the Brian Nash Pharaoh trilogy has been preserved for the ages on vintage disc images floating around the web. It's in the Interactive Fiction Archive. It's generally out there, but may have just been an amateur project. As a side note, Simutech, who I thought might have published The Pharaoh, though I think that's a different Pharaoh than this one, is still in business as an Apple dealer, but I wasn't able to reach anybody there who could provide any details on the company's early history. Let's see here. I'm still chugging along in Martek's Tomb. One of the interesting things about these games is that they're fairly fairly straightforward. The first one, Pharaoh, has a lot of red herrings. There are a lot of interesting items laying around, but you don't actually need to do anything with any of them. This game's a little bit similar, although obviously I'm taking some shortcuts here for speedrun purposes, taking advantage of the fact that I didn't have to actually get the shovel and then go back and dig up the ores in the raft. I just dropped them right here, and now I've got them, so I can sail across the lake. Well, I can sail lake. It's a two-word parser, and it took me a while to get the right combination together there. Sail raft did not do the trick. For some reason, there are two puzzles that work exactly the same way. You have to put the three gems, the gem, the jewel, and the star, in a door or in an idol to solve a puzzle. And I don't know why it repeats exactly the same idea, but it does. I actually discovered the drop bug in the first place while playing this one, and confusing the word gem for jewel and finding that a jewel I had not seen before magically appeared. I did go back through and find the right way to find all of the items in the game. So I do have proper solutions, which I'll be writing up in our weekly Adventure of the Week series on the blog. But I wanted to take advantage of some of the game's built-in weaknesses to get through it as quickly as possible for speedrun purposes. You can see here I'm mistyping get, but I'm short-circuiting a whole series of puzzles by simply dropping the minarets and retrieving them and putting them in place. Oh yeah, we're coming down the home stretch here. Another one of the design characteristics of this game series is that I'll be teleported to an unknown location here. And in this room there are some exits in different directions, but you don't actually have to do anything with them. And with that, Martek awakens, we've won, and we don't actually ever have to deal with the genie that was freed in the first game and was threatening to destroy the world, because Martek takes care of it for us. My the best! This has been the Gaming After 40 video podcast. Thanks for watching.